Being able to now say, I find joy in the work. I didn't know you could use those two words in the same sentence. Joy. I didn't think those two things could exist in the same space. I call myself a printmaker and a textile artist. So printmaking is the first proper art form that I started pursuing. Proper is in inverted commas because my view of what art is and can include has radically changed from when I first started making art. Printmaking is both methodical and creative. Screen printing specifically gives me saturated color. There's a depth of color that I like both for what it looks like, but also for the thought that is behind depth. Printmaking is 90% cleaning out. Why do I make beautiful things? When I started making art and learning more about art in general, I took some time thinking about what is good art. And I know that there are artists who are considered good that deal with subject matter, which is really hard, difficult. And I think that there's a place for that, bringing things to the light. But when I thought about what kind of art I wanted to make and trying to distill it down, I thought about beautiful things. My art is not mainly representational, but it's very much inspired by beautiful things in nature. The world is not a beautiful place. There's lots of violence, injustice, corruption, disappointment, heartbreak, etc., etc. But the kingdom is not something which is only for one day. It's also now. I've heard the term, it is the already and the not yet. So part of what I feel called to do in terms of what the already is, to play my role in having the kingdom break through into this broken and messed up world. This, I believe, was used to sharpen knives. So that's its story, and I like an object with a story. I like the stories. School, academically speaking, was easy. I liked the academic part of school. I did not like the other parts of school so much, and particularly the social aspect. In high school, I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere, wanted to have friends, but I was not good at the social stuff. But because I did well academically, I would get praise from the teachers, and I always did well with that. Why did I decide to study accounting? I loved maths. I got to like accounting after I figured out some concepts when I first started taking it as a subject in high school. And maybe I had some older cousins who went to study accounting. So I suppose those were the reasons I got into that specifically. But I started struggling at work very much right from the start, because the way things are theoretically is not the way things are in practice. And where I was used to thinking of things conceptually, that's why I got some of the things so easily, because I could see the principle behind a specific approach and so on. And as long as I could take it back to a basic principle or concept, suddenly that didn't work in the world of work. And throughout the course of 2020 and lockdown, exacerbated and sped up what then happened. I started doing everything significantly slower. Everything took me much longer than it had before. And writing the reports, finishing the reports on time was never a problem before. And then at one point, I started crying. And the only time I didn't cry was when I was in an online meeting. And that was really hard. So I'd take a week or 2 week break. Before the break, I'd finish everything on my table. I'd have a wonderful break. I'd go somewhere beautiful, again, spend some time in the car, driving long distances. And then I'd get back and I'd be able to start again, but very soon I'd get back to that place where, you know, this is mentally exhausting, it's physically exhausting. Emotionally, I think I was pretty exhausted the whole time, because what I was trying to do in order to cope, I was cutting things out of my life all the time. So if I have this amount of capacity and I'm struggling with this, the only solution I know was to cut out things. So things I enjoyed doing, friends, extended family. And when I got to the point where I was like, okay, my mother, my sister, my niece, I'm not going to cut them out of my life, because these were the only 3 people I felt I had left that I hadn't cut out yet. And when it got to the point where I was thinking, well, I'm not going to cut them out, so let me cut myself out of this, I just decided I'm going to stop. I phoned my team leader. She couldn't take the call, and I left her a message and I said, I'm sorry, but I'm done. And I was done. And that's how I got to the point of leaving my job. I'm very grateful for the fact that I had wonderful support in dealing, especially with the emotional stuff. But that took a long time. There was still a lot of crying even after leaving my job, because I just did not have the capacity for anything, or that's what I felt like.
Zit lekker.
Around my birthday last year, I started experiencing initially just small changes, but things started to go in a more positive direction. I had significantly more capacity, physically, emotionally, cognitively, and I didn't always know what to do, but I landed on just get up every morning and just do the next thing, and just do the next thing, and just do the next thing. In summer, I wake up when it starts getting light, which is much earlier than it is in winter. And those first rays of light, the moment they're visible, it is not dark anymore. Even though those are tiny shafts of light, it is not dark anymore. The darkness has not overcome the light. As I continued to make art, there was both working through stuff that had happened in the burnout process, maybe what had led up to it, maybe right from the start, that I could work through or use in making the art, the themes that I drew on. So when there's a theme and I get an idea, I can just take all of that and draw from that. So everywhere here where you see the light parts, those are areas where my positive would have been, and that was washed out. And then I use the screen, and I use the screen until I can't use it anymore, which in the case of this one was until I had let too much ink dry in the screen and I couldn't get a clear print of it anymore. I've often sat with the question, wouldn't it be more meaningful in this broken world to do something more practical or constructive? Teaching people skills, helping enterprise development, feeding people, caring for people. But I believe what I do matters. I believe that what we all do with whatever has been given to us, that matters. It is small, it is tiny what I do in the context of a massive universe. But in the same way that God cares for the entire universe, He cares about what I do. So I believe it matters. And in the same way that I've always taken things that seemingly look that they have no value or purpose or use or whatever anymore and put them together, that's what I think happens with each of our individual contributions in the time where we live, in the places where we live. My hope for the future of my art making is, yes, very practically that I can earn a living from it. But at the same time, I know that until the day I die, I want to be making art. I don't have to retire from this job in the same way that I was hoping to retire from my previous job at the earliest age possible.